Okay, so welcome, Sally, to the Zoom room again. So we're talking about goal setting and justifying the means. This is the ego's thought system of not really being present to the activity itself. It's all about the end goal, so it's future oriented. And then you were contrasting that, so with compared with, say, a gym. You go and you join a gym, and most people join a gym because they've got weight goals to meet or fitness goals. You contrast that with a program like this, where your one goal is enlightenment, and you're saying it's more of a pull than a push. It's kind of a deeper call, and that's really the difference between inspiration and motivation. So motivation is always, I want an end goal, and I'm motivated temporarily to get the end goal, so I'll do what it takes. Even if that means it's unpleasant, I don't like it, I'll push myself through that discomfort to get the end result for a future, satisfaction, which isn't really a very sustainable form of motivation. Most people fail. As I said, I was at this gym, and they said, on average, globally, people join a gym and then they go for six sessions over a period of 6 weeks, and then they drop off. That's kind of the average default. So clearly, being motivated by a goal and not really enjoying the process of doing the exercise is not sustainable, which is why there's such a high dropout rate from that. It's really a thought system that the gyms represent, and they I suppose they haven't cottoned on to the idea that inspiration is much more powerful. So if you can inspire people to exercise, and inspiration is always inside out. So inspiration is primarily about your experience in the moment. So if you could help people to really enjoy exercise, then that's sustainable. They'll come. And there's ways of doing that. If you teach people to breathe properly, so they're not getting as physically stressed and tired, that's a huge help. It puts them into kind of an alpha state where they're in the zone. So breathing is fundamental. And so there's other ways as well. So it's an attitude shift. What you need to do is you need to shift away from the idea that it's future oriented. I'm doing this for a future outcome. It's like, no, I'm doing this because I actually enjoy the process, and I need to find ways to enjoy that process. And if I can't enjoy that, as you said, you walked out of a gym years ago, then you walk out. Okay, I can't enjoy this. This isn't something I want to do. So I'll do something else then. I'm not going to do anything that's that I dislike. I need to actually enjoy the process of it, which is completely counterintuitive to the ego. The ego was like, no, the end justifies the means. So, do this because you're going to get a future goal, and so it's worth it. And that's typical the way ego motivation works. You're motivated to do something because of the end goal, but inspiration is inside out. It's a deeper calling, and it's an enjoyment in the process, in the moment. And you not motivated to do the action by an end goal. You're inspired because you enjoy it. So there's a level of enjoyment. So that's where the root word of enjoyment is joy. It's joy coming into the process, and then you don't need any kind of future motivation, because the process itself is self-rewarding. You feel energized by it. You feel joyful, and you want to do it. So these are the things, when they say follow your bliss or find your passion, it's to find something that you can really just naturally enjoy doing. And it's not an effort. It's not a stress. you're not stressing, straining, and striving, which is the ego's program to get to some future outcome. You're actually flowing in the moment and enjoying the moment, moment by moment of that activity. And then if you add a kind of an end goal into that, it's coming from the right foundation. So Eckhart Tolle talks about 3 levels, acceptance being number 1. Okay, if you can't actively enjoy something, can you just accept it? If you can't accept it, then you're going to be in resistance, and then it's dysfunctional. It's the ego. So that's kind of base foundation. Then enjoyment is active enjoyment. I enjoy the process. I actually feel it's rewarding, it's fulfilling in and of itself, and that's really the essence of the flow state, is being in that joyful feeling. And then enthusiasm, which literally means God in you, en theos in the Greek, theos meaning God in you, is where it kind of takes it to it's joy kind of on steroids. It's joy with a little bit of like, I'll give you an analogy to try and describe it. I'm climbing a mountain. I'm actually, I love climbing. I love being in nature. It's great. And then I look at the top and I go, okay, that's going to be, I'm going to go to the top. I'll make the effort to go a couple of hours to the top of this hill or mountain. Because that view is gonna be amazing, but that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying the process. I'm not like, oh, I'm only doing this to get to the top. I'm doing this because there's actually, I'm enjoying the process. And you remember once I did have you heard of the 3 Peaks Challenge? And it was so representative of a thought system. And I just said, I'm never doing that again. And I'm glad I did it, because it was like, it's basically 24 hours. In 24 hours, you've got to climb the 3 highest peaks in the British Alps. And so you drive from one to another, but for some crazy reason, you've got to do it in 24 hours. Right? So there's like no sleep, insane stuff. But this was the challenge. So, there was a group doing it, and I went along because it was all about building networks. And it was the time when I was trying to raise capital. So it was sponsored by the company I was working for. So, okay, we'll go, there's some high net wealth people there, make the connections. So I'm like, okay, so there's an end goal immediately, to start with. And then the whole thing, it was crazy, because we walked, through the night. So you can't see you start at like, what was it, 6 o'clock in the evening. So that was the first walk you could see. It was up Ben Nevis. So come down and it's getting dark. The second one is in the middle of the night, so you don't really see much. It's like walking in the dark. And then even when it got light, it was cloudy. The whole mountain was in mist. So you're walking through the mist. You get there, you touch the top. So, okay, well, I guess I better go all the way back down. Another like hour or 2 down the mountain in mist. And I was like, actually, am I really enjoying this? No, not really. It's just like, maybe the first one, because it was the first one, but the second one, you're tired, you're stiff. And then by the third one, it's just like, it's just like running on empty. Touch the top again, it was mist, and then go back down. It's like, did I really enjoy that? No. Maybe the first one. No, but it was just like to do it for the sake of doing it. Oh, I've done the challenge. I was like, that was just completely pointless. And needless to say, no investment came out of it either. But it was that goal kind of, I'm going to do it because it's a challenge, and then I can say I've done the 24-hour 3 Peaks Challenge. But like, did I actually enjoy that process? Not really. I enjoyed the hot bath afterwards. That was fantastic. That's like lying there going, oh, it feels so good. But the second 2 walks, it's like, no, not really. Not really, because just like I'm tired, sore. It's cold. It's not it's not actually that enjoyable. So what's the point then? So the essence of flow is you stay in the flow, and if you can't do it in flow, then don't do the activity. Just stop, because why are you doing? As you said in the gym, why are you doing something which is not enjoyable for some apparent future end result? Do something else. There's many ways to do things. So it's exercise. There's many ways of getting exercise. There are going to be more, and then primarily, it's all about the flow. because that's your spiritual practice. So if you go out of flow in an activity, it's not worth it, because it's actually harming, denying your primary goal in life. If you have one goal, it's awakening. So a moment experience is unpleasant, which is the sign that you're blocking it, because spirit is always in the moment. What does it feel like? Then don't do it. Just say, no, I can stop this. It's not. And then you get out of all kinds of insane thinking the ego sponsors. The end justifies the means, and I'm just going to do this because I have to do it, because it's all about the end goal. It's not about the process. And if you live your whole life that way, there's never any true satisfaction or fulfillment. It's always this kind of, the Buddha called it dukkha, just this dissatisfied, and I'm seeking and I'm seeking and I'm striving, and I'm never actually finding it. Which leads us quite nicely into today's quote. So let's share my screen. Let's go into. I'll pull that up. Oh, not yet. Okay, sorry. Let's just go. Dip. Right, there we go. And expand this a bit. Oops. Okay. So yeah, this kind of leads us into today's quote and lesson, which is all about peace. And so flow is peaceful action, really. It's peace in action. When you're in flow, you're at peace. Although you're acting, you can act quite dynamically. You can be at peace while you're doing it. So do you want to read the quote?
Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Didn't read that very flowy, did I?
I'll try again.
Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid.
So that's quoted in John, Yeshua. Really, that could actually be a quote from A Course in Miracles. It's the same language, isn't it? Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Maybe that's why he uses that kind of the phraseology in the Course, because it's kind of biblical. Because it's exactly the way we would have phrased it in the Course. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled. So do not let your hearts be troubled, we translate that as. So any thoughts on that?
It's just nice how the lessons build on each other, isn't it? Like you can't give anything you haven't got. So giving peace, you have peace.
He's saying, peace I leave with you. So this was, I think, towards the end when he was saying goodbye to his disciples. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. So let's unpack this a bit. So he's telling us the peace he experienced is ours as well, and urging us not to allow resistance to and fear of the apparent problems to occupy our minds. So the most interesting part for me is the not as the world gives, do I give to you. So let's unpack that. So if you want to read paragraph 2.
When he says, not as the world gives, do I give to you, he means that focusing your attention on the world of form will never bring you true peace, because this world, being the projection of the ego or belief in separation, that is the only reason the peace of perfect love or pure formless awareness seems not to be there in your experience, is designed to disturb your peace. Designed to disturb your peace.
Well, if you look at the origin of the ego, of the illusion, the whole universe, the world, you can see that. We look at the should just bring this up by default. There we go. Go to our descent into hell diagram. So any split, any thought of separation from pure formless awareness, which is by definition peace, is not peaceful. You know, that first split was the first thought that wasn't wholly peaceful, and that split our minds caused us to panic and then project out to try and escape from the wrath of God we thought was coming upon us. Now trying to escape into an external world which we invented. So the whole process started with the loss of peace. That first thought of separation was the first time we ever experienced what we would call loss of peace, where we weren't just perfectly at peace in pure formless awareness of perfect love, where there was some other awareness. So, and that was pretty horrifying for us. So that's the genesis of the whole illusion. So what could you expect from a thought that is not peaceful? It's the very essence of not non-peace. That thought is going to create an entire thought system and a world based on that thought system that is not peaceful, because that was its origin. It cannot make as it is not. It can't create peace if it's not peaceful. So that's why the entire world, you know, this projection into an external projection of mind as energy, externalized mind is what we call energy. This is the Big Bang of all of this non-peace, all of the disturbance of our peace, guilt, fear, sin, attacked thoughts, outwards, to then miscreate the physical universe. So by design, the physical universe has these negative thoughts and emotions at its foundation, which is why I say it's not designed for peace. What's designed for peace is pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's the one state that is guaranteed to give you peace. Because the ego, by design, is going to disturb your peace, because that's its origin, the disturbance of peace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It cannot make other than what it is. It's peaceful at its foundation, and it cannot make something that's peaceful. It's like produces like.
So from the origin of the separation, from the first thought, it was wanting something different than love, than pure formless awareness of perfect love. Just wanting something different than that created all that, didn't it? I'm sorry if that doesn't really make sense, but it was just like, it's all about wanting something than it really is, isn't it? We want to change our life, so we're not in peace. So going right back to that original thought.
Yeah, because that original thought is then the blueprint, the pattern that's going to be duplicated over and over and over again in its projection. So, you know, what sponsored this thought of separation was a desire for something else. Oh, that'd be kind of nice. Thought occurs randomly. No one can really explain that, because it never really happened in truth. So thought occurs randomly, and then we have the desire for it. We're like, oh, that would be nice. We can have something else here. This thought offers me something else, and that seems to be desirable. And so now desire arises. For the first time, you're not completely satisfied. God or love or oneness. Now there seems to be something else that's more attractive. So this is the genesis of all desire in the world, which is why the Buddha noticed desire is fundamental to suffering, because you desire for something to be different than what it is. The original desire was, I want reality. I want myself to be something different than what it is. So I don't want pure formless awareness of perfect love anymore. I want something else. And so that wanting then brings that something else into apparent existence. And as long as we still want it, we'll maintain it. It's gonna stay there in our minds, because that's the power of desire. It makes things real, seemingly.
Mm.
So yeah, that's, does it make sense? It's the original thought, and whatever that original thought was, the qualities of the original thought will sponsor everything that comes from that thought. The source dictates how its extensions or projections are going to play out. And so the source of the ego is false, and it was not peaceful. That first thought was not a peaceful thought. Then everything that comes from that thought must have the same qualities.
So if we become the watcher or the observer or the witnesser or whatever word you want to use for it, we are then stepping back into the peace, because we're not wanting something different.
Yeah. So awareness is the key to undo this whole program. He's saying always go into this awareness that transcends the idea of separation, and be able to then perceive whatever the ego's invented from that awareness, from the knowledge that actually only this pure formless awareness of perfect love is real and true, because that establishes you in a peaceful state of mind. And then all of the ego's mindless projections don't influence you, because you've seen through them. Once you start deconstructing this and you see through the origin of the thought system, and you see, well, actually everything that comes from that must be unpeaceful. It must be designed to disturb my peace, because that's the logical conclusion. You can't expect peace from a thought system that is not peaceful at its foundation. So then, the only alternative arises. The Holy Spirit tells you, well, let this go. You can't believe in this at all. You must let it go and find, in the letting go, find your true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to this. So you understand why it's designed to disturb your peace.
Yeah.
Because the ego requires continuous disturbance of your peace in order to maintain its existence. If you're completely peaceful, that's your only experience, then you will be with God. And you're not going to last very long in the dream world, because there's no reason to be here. So the ego's got to maintain disturbance of your peace at all costs to prevent you from feeling this God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness, and saying, okay, well, I just want to stay there. I don't want anything else. I want to just choose this and only this, and everything else is deluded. Okay, so happy with that paragraph?
Yeah. So what else could you really expect from anything produced by a belief that seemed to shatter the peace of heaven, which, remember, is just the state of pure formless awareness, but more disturbance of your peace? The external universe and world in which we seem to live is the projection of your belief in separation, and now the seeming justification for endless disturbances of your peace. When I read this morning, what dropped into me was that I was projecting anything that wasn't peace onto others around me. And I know that seems quite obvious, but you have to experience it in the now, don't you? So I realized that I'd spent my life projecting anything that's not peace on others. So I looked at my mother and my ex-husband and and other people that I see in the world. And I thought, oh yeah. So I want to be in peace. So everything else that's not peace, I go, oh, he's like that and she's like that. Oh, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're whatever. And I just, I mean, how many years have I been doing this? It's ridiculous, but it just dropped in a bit further, like, yeah, I've just pushed it out there. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's a deep-seated pattern, this projection. This is what the ego is doing all the time, but we don't realize we're doing it. It's projecting our own beliefs onto the world. And then we interpret the world through that set of beliefs. And we go, oh, that's reality. Because look, this is happening, but it's bound up with our belief system. These things are happening because we believe them. And then they happen and they reinforce our belief. So it really takes this kind of level of mind training to really undo this deep-seated projection mechanism.
Yeah, it's quite stunning though, isn't it? That I could spend my whole life, I'm 60 now, my whole life thinking that, well, my mother was very anxious when I was growing up, or my husband was very depressed. And actually, it's taken until now to go, oh, I really get that now. Yeah, all right. Well, I get it on another level. Funny, isn't it, when you think you understand it and then there's that other layer.
Yeah,
and it's a miracle, isn't it?
Levels of significance.
Yeah, and it gives you a new viewpoint, because now I'm seeing it differently. I'm seeing it from another perspective. Yeah, you can't explain it really, can you? Because it's your own experience, but it's like, wow, yeah, I still didn't really see that until today.
And that's how this process works. And that's why, you can work with the course for years and years and still be getting fresh insights. It's like every lesson, every section of the text, whatever you're reading, it's the total truth, and it can help you to have insights that you just didn't have before. You go, oh, okay, I'm actually seeing that now, and I'm getting it on a different level. Which is what this process is about. So it's this kind of ongoing unfolding, and that this process will take the rest of your life. So you can't really ever get bored with it, because it's revealing all the time. It's revealing new stuff. You're learning, you're growing, and it's actually really quite interesting. The inner journey. It's not boring. Like, oh, that's so boring. No, like what's boring is doing the same thing over and over again on the level of form. There's people who've been trying to satisfy themselves on the level of form in the same way for many, many years, and it's just not working. Rather, what they need is, the spiritual approach to it. Okay, well, I'll let go of the need for an outcome on the level of form and just surrender to whatever's arising right now is what I'm, at the very least, I'm accepting. Better is to actively enjoy it, and top of the pile is, there's actually an enthusiasm. So then you kind of have the best of both worlds. You've got some kind of end goal, vision, but you're enjoying the process.
Yeah, I enjoy the process because I find it quite exciting. When I suddenly get an aha like that. Oh, well, that's really good. It's not like I have to help anybody feel happier when they're presenting their unhappiness. It's like, oh, I can see another bit of my unhappiness. Okay, I accept that's me. Okay, that's exciting.
Well, what you're seeing then, it's like being a detective. You're seeing your false self and uncovering it. It's like being an archaeologist. And you're going into your subconscious and you're uncovering, first of all, the false self so that you can let it go and to reveal the true self, which is always there but was covered over. And that's actually a very interesting process. You have to learn, know thyself. You have to learn about yourself, and you'll learn learn about the mind training, spiritual practices. So it's food. It's food for the mind as well, but it's the mind being directed by the Holy Spirit. And then, the trivial pursuits that the world wants you to accept are often just some no interest, compared with a process that's that engaging and interesting, going into your mind, really looking at it. It can be difficult and painful as well, but the more you do it, the more you go, wow, I can do this. I've got this. I don't have to hide away anymore. So let's continue, shall we? Where were we? The external universe, projection, okay. Projection of your belief in separation, now the seeming justification for endless disturbances of your peace. Because that was the origin of it. The first thought was a disturbance of peace, and then we projected thought out, and that's how we invented the entire universe. So that's at the very foundation of this physical universe. So, it's no surprise that thought system, this way of thinking and paying attention, is quite prevalent in this world, because that's the blueprint, the archetype that then birthed an entire world and universe.
Mm.
But Yeshua, he never leaves us there, so he gives us some hope in the next paragraph, if you want to read that. But Yeshua symbolizes.
But Yeshua symbolizes the thought system of the Christ or true self that will save or awaken you from this self-created nightmare in which peace does not seem to be possible, and various disturbing emotions like desire, or in Buddhist terminology, craving, resistance, or aversion, which is really the desire for something to be different from what it is. Constant fear or anxiety that your expectations about how your apparently external reality should look will not be met, or seem to occupy your whole awareness instead. Yeah, that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah, I run these groups for weight loss freedom. So the idea is to get people away from the body focus and work with their emotions and cover their own freedom. And the focus is just constantly on what is wrong with the physical body. And it's really difficult to get people to focus away from that. And then it's like a magnet for people to focus on what that one small thing is wrong with them, rather than seeing the bigger picture. It's just the ego, isn't it?
Yeah, so it focuses on what you desire, craving, resistance or aversion. In the Buddhist terminology, they call it aversion. So it's basically desiring something to be different from what it is. I don't want that to be as it is. And then constant fear or anxiety that your expectations about how your apparently external reality should look will not be met. And this is what seems to occupy most people's whole awareness. What desire for pleasure, desire for this, desire to avoid pain, so aversion, and a fear, constant anxiety that, actually, I'm not really keeping this together. And all of these, my expectations about reality are not going to be met a lot of the time. So this is the kind of existential anxiety that people have, which is a consequence of separation from source. So all of this is a movement away from pure formless awareness of perfect love, and a movement into this very limited awareness, which we talk about. Talks about it in the that's one of our translations. Darkness is limited awareness. So he's giving us the answer. He's saying this thought system of the Christ, or your true self, which is one that brings you into awareness of pure formless awareness of perfect love. That identity and the awareness are really the same. It's just a self concept that will lead to you having this experience of pure formless awareness of perfect love, rather than all of the disturbing emotions that the ego sponsors with its self concept. A limited, separated self concept can only sponsor emotions that are limiting, and Yeah, so it's about letting go, seeing that, and letting go of that disturbance, saying, okay, so I need to be aware of this. He's asking us to be vigilant. So he urges us not to allow these troubles and fears, which are really caused by your own false beliefs and expectations, to disturb your peace in any way. So there's a call to vigilance. Very, very similar to, the way he teaches now. He says, peace I leave with you, but do not let your hearts be troubled, and neither let them be afraid. So you need to be vigilant of fear and anxiety and so-called problems, troubles. In truth, there's only one problem, and that's that you have a perceptual problem. You perceive some foundation of a separate self, which you think is real. You now perceive an entire world that seems to be there, but actually is unreal. The next time any kind of problem happens, you can just go, but it's unreal. This is all caused by my own false beliefs and expectations. It's all in me, and it's playing out right now. This whole thought system, is playing out all the time in this world, using the projections in the world to seemingly justify these false beliefs and expectations. And all of this is designed to disturb your peace. So the world is designed to disturb your peace. It's designed to challenge you. Eckhart Tolle's got a good talk, and he says on this idea of challenge. If you think the world is there to make you happy and to bring you peace all the time, then you're going to be upset a lot of the time. You're going to be frustrated because a lot of the time it doesn't do that. And you're going to wonder what's wrong. And then you live your whole life in a state of, well, there's something wrong. I'm always expecting reality to be something other than what it is. I'm never satisfied with what is. There's something wrong fundamentally. And the only way out is to identify with the Christ, the one self that unites us with pure formless awareness of perfect love, and drop all these disturbing emotions that come from the little self, like craving and resistance and aversion and guilt and fear and sin. Drop them all into the oneness. Give them all over to the oneness that is your source. And then you'll be free. So he's saying here, be vigilant. You need to be aware. So awareness or vigilance, if you want to read that one, is required.
In other words, awareness or vigilance is required while you seem to be living in this world. Because here it's so easy to deny the peace you truly want when the ego presents you with opportunities to get upset by apparently external circumstances it has invented, and tries to convince you that blaming other people and the world in general for your lack of peace will alleviate your guilt by giving it to other people and things, so God will punish them and not you. Yeah, it's wow, isn't it?
We had this lesson a couple of days ago, but I thought it's worth looking at it again in this context of blame. That was about condemnation. This is blame, which is really the same thing. It's guilt, but it's so common. This is how most people operate. I blame other people. I blame the world. I complain. I accuse. I blame when the world isn't going my way and it's not working as I think it should. And then I'm saying, well, I'm not peaceful because if only the external world would change, if only, this would happen differently, then I could be at peace. But, this is the setup, the ego setting you up never to be able to experience peace because the external world is never going to be as you want it to be. And that's the way it's designed. So it's trying to convince you that by doing this accusation, blame, and complaint program, it's actually going to fix something. It's going to do something. But actually what's happening is you're giving your guilt at the separation, because actually deep down, you feel guilty at having separated. And so now you need to offload that guilt. And you offload it by blaming someone else. And then you give the guilt to them through the blame. And what your ego is telling you is that God will then punish them and not you. So you're off the hook. They're the guilty ones, and they're going to be punished. Well, all of it's insane, because no one's going to be punished. Guilt isn't real. There never was any sin. It's all made up. None of it's true. So that's the only way out, of this thought system. Once you've got into it, and it's so dark and twisted and convoluted, the only way out is to go above it and realize that none of it's true, which is exactly what this approach is. So it's understanding the dynamics of the ego. So you understand all this, then you can transcend it, move above the battleground and see it in perspective and go, okay, I see what's actually happening here. I see the subtleties and the nuances, and I'm not going to be fooled by them anymore because I've been trained to see them. Okay?
Yeah, so that belief there's something wrong. Nearly everyone has that, don't they? I find it in my work that if you really look at it, that is the basics. There's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with them, there's something wrong.
That's the foundation of the ego's thought system, because if it's believing in a separate self and in this world, there's something fundamentally wrong. It's based on a false idea. The whole thing is false. And it knows that. It feels uncomfortable with that, but doesn't know how to resolve it, because the resolution of that deep sense of there's doing something wrong is the undoing of the ego. And so it tries to solve the problem in another way. And there's many strategies it uses. None of them will work. It's going to try and get you to focus on the world, try and find satisfaction in the world, find pleasure, avoid pain, make money, special relationships. All these things are attempts by the ego to justify this world. And tell you that there's something here to be sought, something here that's worthwhile. And yes, you're just saying, look through it all and see what it is. See the genesis of it. It's a tiny mad idea. It's false. And so everything that comes from the tiny mad idea must also be false. So can you really find satisfaction in what's false? Saying you never will. You can try and try and try as you might. And we've all tried many times. We've had many lives. We come back here over and over again. And eventually you've got to say, well, no, I'm out of here. Which is what this approach is. No, I'm willing to do the work, to be vigilant for the ego, because I desire peace and only peace. And I have to recognize that I will never find peace in this world. The only way you find peace in this world is by letting it go. By not attaching to the world, by letting the entire world go in your perception. That's when you find peace. But you'll never find it in the world, attached to the world, thinking the world's thoughts. Which, explains a lot about the world. Why do we have so much a conflict in this world? Why is there always attack? So that's the way it's designed to be. Okay. So let's go back to so if you read the paragraph again slowly and just ponder it in your own time.
In other words, awareness or vigilance is required. while you seem to be living in this world. Because here it's so easy to deny the peace you truly want when the ego presents you with opportunities to get upset by apparently external circumstances it has invented, and tries to convince you that blaming other people and the world in general for your lack of peace will alleviate your guilt by giving it to other people and things, so God will punish them and not you. Yeah, I reckon you could read that every day for a year and a half or something and still kind of go, oh yeah, right, yeah.
It gets into the nuts and bolts of the thought system. So this is what it's doing. It's always trying to do this. It's using the external world to justify upset and drama and get you to try and project your guilt outwards. And it keeps the cycle going. It keeps the guilt going. It keeps the sense of separation going, fear, attack. And this is why, we seem to be stuck in this world, because it's a very sticky thought system. Unless what I love about the Course, is he so precise about describing how the thought system works. I've never seen this level of precision and detail in any other spiritual teaching. He's going, okay, this is the mechanism of this is how it works. So understand its dynamics, and then you have a chance of undoing it. Because you can catch it and you go, okay, I'm seeing how this thing works. But if you don't understand this program, and most people don't, they have no idea that this is the program, this is actually what's happening all the time in their lives, then the program's running you, and you're a slave of the ego. So you have to, I really understand. That's why he does all this mind training. Start understanding what's actually going on in your life and in this world. And it's quite shocking when you go, wow, okay, I'm seeing the whole thing's a setup, basically. The entire world is a setup created by the ego to keep you in a separated state of mind, identifying with a separate self, and keep you coming back here into time and space as a seeming human being, whatever other form you choose, over and over and over again. That's the whole purpose. When you understand that, then it's like, okay, I'm finally starting to see truly what the world is about. So I don't try and put false purposes onto it. The world is not about making me happy. It's not about making me peaceful. It's not about pleasure. It's not about any of the goals I've assigned to it. Because actually, this is the fundamental program. This is why the world was created. This is why it's flawed by design. And I have to see that. I can't change that. See, the ego is arrogance. It says, well, no, I can make my reality whatever. But you can't change the fundamentals of these thought systems, right? They are set. This is the way the ego operates, and he's describing it. And this is the way the spirit operates. And he says, the only power you have is the power of choice. You can choose which one you want to believe in. But you can't change the thought systems. They are set. The ego's thought system is there. Holy Spirit's thought system is there. You must choose which thought system you're going to use as your operating system, and that's where your only power of choice really lies. But it's an amazing one, because that single choice to choose the spirit over the ego will then get you out of the entire dream. It'll collapse the entire physical universe and get you back to pure formless awareness of perfect love. One simple choice, albeit made over and over and over again, but it's the same choice over and over and over again. As the counter, the antidote to this really insane egoic program of setting you up to get upset, because remember, every upset is a setup, and then convincing you that your accusation and blame and complaint, all of your attacks are now justified because of the seeming external world, the seemingly external circumstances in the world, when it's all a setup. That's how it was designed to be. And so you got to be really, hyper vigilant for this. Go, okay, the whole thing's a setup. if there seems to be something happening to make me upset, I'm being set up here, right? It's a trap. I'm being set up to do this. So let me have the awareness to not fall into the trap and stop myself going into the ego's pattern of judging it, blaming it, naming first of all, then accusing, blaming, complaining about it. And all of that makes the whole thing real, and it makes my separate self real. So I have to have a lot of awareness to stop myself going down the ego's path, because it's a very well-worn path. We've done this many, many, many times in our lives and for many lifetimes. That's why the mind training is necessary, and it's necessary to really, you've got to do spiritual practice to maintain that awareness. Otherwise, you're going to forget, and you're going to be sucked back into the same game, because that's your default at the moment. And it takes a lot of energy to change it. The ego's got this momentum, and it's kind of going in that direction. And so to change it requires energy to redirect us. Think of it as a big boulder going down a hill or something. It's got a lot of energy and it's just rolling. And to redirect it so that it's not gonna, smash into the house or something, the bottom of the hill, and trash it, takes a lot of energy. And so that's what that's why the spiritual practices, or the energy that's required to redirect it, because that's got to come from somewhere. It's not that rolling stone of the ego isn't just going to stop when it's got this momentum. And so a lot of people find that, oh, well, that's so much work. Yeah, maybe it is, but what else are you going to do? You're just going to go with the ego's flow and just carry on in this insane process, which is self-destructive. Eventually, that's going to kill you. You keep on going in that process. It's going to kill you. And okay, you might say, well, we're going to die anyway, but it's going to kill you in a state of mind that's unenlightened. You're not going to have really understood anything. So then you have to come back and do it all over again. So you want to, you're going to die anyway. The body's going to die anyway, but you want to use your life as consciously and productively as possible to really undo it, to undo the ego's insane thought system while you're here. So, when you finally do lay the body aside or die, you've done this. It's like, okay, I got this. I understood the ego. I let it go, and I don't need to do this work again. It's been done in this lifetime, and that's your final task, is to do it. And so, for me, it's a real step up. He's saying, okay, step up. I've given you this course. Here, you can actually master this. You master this thought system in your lifetime, and that's it. It's game over. End of ego. You don't have to do this another time. One lifetime freedom. If you're, getting on, you're 60, 70, 80, it doesn't matter. You've still got the time. There's no reason why you can't do this in 10 years, 5 years. It's possible. Whatever it is, you've got to trust that your lifetime is perfect to do this, that you can actually do this in your lifetime. You don't have to come back for another one or multiple ones. There's some teachings like Theravada Buddhism say, oh, well, when you get to this advanced stage, then you've got like 7 lifetimes still to go. Well, who makes that up? How do they know that? No one questions this, but someone's made that up at some point, and it's gone into the doctrine, and now that's taught down the ages, and people accept it. But how do you know? How did the first person know that? They just sucked it out of their thumb. What's to prove that? And what's to say that that's the case for you? Why are you limited to 7 lifetimes? Why couldn't you do it in 1 if you really wanted to? So a lot of these religious doctrines, you have to question them as well and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Who made that up? Why does that have to be the case? Why can't I do it in this life? If I really desire this, in the end, you say desire only this. Your only true desire is to desire awakening, desire the truth of oneness above all else. If you make that your fundamental desire in this world, which is also the same as the desire for peace, because the peace only comes from oneness, then things will accelerate. If you have only that desire and you apply only that in every situation, you choose only peace because that's all you want, then it's inevitable that everything else will fade away and enlightenment will be yours. Because enlightenment is just the ability to make that choice over and over and over again and make no other choice until eventually there's no choice required anymore, because you've made it so consistently that it's the default. It's just like, oh, well, peace is, and I don't actually move out of peace because I've chosen it so completely and wholly. But while we're learning this, it seems to be a process of conscious choice. Oh, I have to choose peace. I have to choose the spirit over the ego. And this is what the mind training is about, helping us to make the choice. So when we're not being tempted by the ego, when you're not in that moment of choice, if you have time like this and you're doing a spiritual practice and you're reading and you're contemplating and the ideas are kind of percolating into your awareness, then when you get tempted, in a challenging situation, then you're much more likely to make the right choice, aren't you? So it's mind training so that we're prepared for the times when you do get tested. But like, going into battle, they do combat training. They make it tough and they make it hard because they know that when they get into combat, it's going to be tough and hard. And if they haven't trained that way, then they're not going to be used to it. So, you were saying, well, what's the motivation to do this work? And sometimes, you do get to hour number 4. I've done 5-hour sessions before. You get to hour number 4 and everyone's just, I was like, okay, but this is the training. It is tough, but you're doing it so that you're ready, you're prepared. And there is kind of we're talking about the flow. There is actually kind of a deep satisfaction in doing that. Actually, I find it like, okay, like, I wasn't limited. I didn't just give up. And there's a deep kind of enjoyment in doing that to a point. And if you can't anymore, then it's time to leave. And then people do. It's like, okay, enough. I can't actually keep my eyes open, or I can't concentrate. Okay, enough. But if you just go beyond the limits, you find, oh, actually, I could do it for another half an hour. I could. It was just my ego's resistance that was stopping me. So sitting for hours like this is the mind training. This is spiritual training, so that you build the awareness to a point where you're so aware that the ego can't get you anymore. You realize all moment by moment, okay, I'm just being set up here. The ego's setting up another drama, and it's trying to get me to jump into this, and a move away always from pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's always its intention. Move you away from this awareness into the drama of the ego. Okay, so we read that, and as you say, you could sit with, if a paragraph particularly works for you, you could print it out and you could just read it over and over again, because that's a kind of a summary of the whole ego's thought system there, and the antidote to the awareness or the vigilance is required.
I just printed it out.
Okay, good. So something you could make part of your spiritual practice the next few days or weeks, as long as it works for you, to just as a reminder to go, okay, so this is the game. If you're going into a game, life's a game every day. If you're going to a game, understand what the rules of the game are, understand how the game's played, because then you've got a chance. If you have no idea what the rules are, and what's actually going on, then you're being played. You're being played for a fiddle by the ego. But this reminds you, okay, this is the game. This is how the ego works, and I can't change the ego's game. All I can do is choose not to play it. You see, the ego is going to do its thing and it's going to try, and it's the default thought system of the world. So it seems to be everywhere. But I can make a conscious choice not to allow that, to play another game. Which is, you're saying that's the only choice you really have, to play the Holy Spirit's game, not the ego's game. So having done this, just reflect on that paragraph. Can you see it's really impossible to get rid of your guilt by giving, or in Course in Miracles terminology, projecting it onto another personal thing, which is what all blame really entails. You can't actually do it. You can't get rid of the guilt. You make it worse. So the more you blame someone, blame is just guilt being projected. The more you give the guilt, because that's what you're doing to another person, the more guilty you will feel, because you're perpetuating guilt. You're saying, I have a lot of guilt to give, so I give it, and that it's like self-reinforcing. Then I must have it to give. And this illusion of guilt gets perpetuated by the projection of it out as accusation, blame, complaint, attack, all of these forms. Which is why he says very clearly, you cannot attack. If you attack, then you make this entire thought system real. So stop it. All attack must be given up entirely or not at all. All forms of attack, blaming, accusation, blame, complaint, irritation, frustration, all the subtle forms of anger that we indulge in, all of that has to go, because all of it is projection of your guilt. And then it keeps reinforcing the guilt, which then keeps you separate in your mind from your source, because you believe you really have separated, and you believe you're going to be punished because of that separation. And the whole insane thought system is reinforced. So by doing this, projecting guilt in the form of blaming and complaining about other people in the world, you are continually reinforcing the illusion that you have plenty of the stuff called guilt to give. And so it's no wonder they don't work and they make us feel bad, because you're just reinforcing guilt, which is the thought ultimately of death. Guilt and death, fear and death and sickness and attack, they all go together. So you're reinforcing that, and then you wonder why you can't feel happy. Because you're never going to find happiness there. It's impossible to be happy if you project guilt. And you keep reinforcing the illusion that you're separate from your source. So you start to see, okay, this is how the system works. Have another look at it. All right? Separation leads to a sense of a separate self, an individual self. The moment you name that, you have sin. Okay, I've created another identity. I've really done that. And in order to create that identity, I have to have denied perfect love, pure formless awareness, oneness, whatever you want to call it. So now I have the guilt for the sin of destroying this God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness in order to create my own identity. And that guilt underpins everything the ego does. And that's why the ego's thought system will never work. Because that guilt is fundamentally negative, and you cannot turn what's fundamentally negative, what negates the truth, into positive. Not possible. You can never make guilt positive. Oh, we'll have positive guilt. We'll have a life-affirming guilt. It's not possible. It is by its nature destructive, and so it must be undone, let go of. So that guilt then demands punishment. So now you have this tremendous fear of punishment, false expectation, punishment appearing real, and a concept of a fearful, wrathful, separate God that's going to punish you. So that all comes from guilt. And then the projection becomes inevitable. To escape this horrible feeling, the ego says, well, let's go somewhere else, and let's literally go out of our minds, because this is where God's going to get you. And we'll go and we'll be safe in this illusory physical reality that we've now created. We'll run away from God and hide in the physical universe. That's the thought system. That's what sponsored the entire physical universe, which can then only just perpetuate the illusions that it was birthed from. So it perpetuates separation over and over again through the fragmentation of the ego into the different parts, these seemingly separate bits of mind, which incarnate into forms. And now you've got trillions of little forms floating around, which seem to be separate. So the thought system separation, just projected out to its nth degree, becomes this physical universe. And then these forms seem to develop their own forms of life, their own mind patterns. And so we're just one of those forms of life that now seem to be engaged continuously in trying to accuse, blame, complain, and attack other people and things in order to avoid this terrible guilt that we feel. That seems to be, our purpose here. And so we create these incredibly dysfunctional relationships, patterns of behavior, societies, to try and alleviate our guilt. increased guilt, fear, attack, projection of the guilt in the form of accusation, blame, and counterattack. We get caught up in this dream, and then we believe that we're a helpless, enervated little life, which is hell, that we're a victim of an unfair, cruel world, and we're doomed to live a life of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and eventually we die. Because that's the logical consequence of all of this. And so Yeshua is saying, look at all of this, look at the setup of it. And whenever you're being set up to get upset, understand what's going on. The ego is trying to justify its entire thought system. So don't go there, don't fall for it. Remind yourself that none of this is true. That separation isn't true, the thought of an individual self isn't true, therefore sin and guilt isn't true, therefore fear is not true, therefore projection isn't true, that's not necessary, therefore you don't need to accuse and blame and complain because there's no guilt to justify that. Therefore you can't be a victim of a cruel external world and living a helpless, enervated little life, because none of that's true. And that's the reinterpretation of the ego's dream by the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness, to simply remind you, in all of this madness, none of it's true. So just restore your mind in any moment. You can make the choice to restore your mind to this, to a state of oneness, of pure formless awareness, of unconditional love, and you can choose to remain there and rest there, even in the temptations that the ego is presenting you with, in this crazy thought system that it's invented. And that's what we're doing here. So it's a little summary again of the whole thing. But can you see why we need to be so vigilant? Because the ego is continuously trying to get you to indulge in this game of accusation, blame, complaint, and attack, to justify its thought system, to make the sin and the guilt real, which justifies, which confirms that you have an individual identity, which is what it wants. That's separate from pure formless awareness. That's its only agenda. It's an insane agenda. So you kind of see through the illusion then. You see through the smoke and mirrors, because the world's just smoke and mirrors that's cloaking all of this, that hide, what's actually going on. And when it's revealed like this, then you don't need to be scared of it anymore. That's just ridiculous and insane. What a crazy thought system. I don't have to believe in it in any way, shape, or form anymore. Oh, well, thank God. And there is an alternative. I can actually look upon all this craziness and not be moved. Just remain in my true self as the pure formless awareness of perfect love that I am, unmoved, unshaken, and unshakable. And that's why we do the spiritual practices, and we let go in order to stay rooted in that awareness, no matter what the ego is tempting us to do in the illusion. Okay?
Yeah, while you were talking, I had this vision of bits of mind floating around, not believing they're floating around, not in the oneness. So that was a good vision. And then
it's kind of what's happening here. Bits of separate awareness. At some point, I think Yeshua called them separate awarenesses. Bits of mind, separate awarenesses, thinking they're separate, attached to now a form, and they think that the entire show is real, that the reality, whatever they're experiencing in their perception is real. And he's saying it's totally delusional. That separated awareness isn't even true. So whatever it's experiencing is not true either. It's just a bad dream. And so each awareness can choose to wake up out of the dream. This hypnosis of a dream world that's only designed to hurt it. So what he's saying, there's nothing good here. It's designed to hurt you, to kill you, to destroy you, to cause you endless grief and misery and pain. So don't be fooled, because that's what it's designed to do. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's very dark and gloomy, and I don't want to hear that. But if you continue to want to believe that the ego and its world offers you something, then guess what? You keep coming back and you try to make it work over and over and over again. You try and make a thought system that doesn't work and a world that doesn't work based on it work. And it's very frustrating. immensely frustrating because it doesn't work. I mean, if you think about a problem that you've tried to solve, you've all had this, and you get given an impossible problem, and you can't solve it. It's so frustrating because it's like I can't solve this. And the only way out of that frustration is to recognize that, okay, it's an insoluble problem by design. I'm not going to solve it within the construct of the problem. In other words, as Einstein said, significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. We have to go above that. We have to go outside of that construct in order to solve it, which is exactly what this thought system is doing. This thought system of the Holy Spirit is saying, go out of the construct, leave it behind. You have to rise above all of this, rise above the thoughts of separation, and see it for what it is. See that the entire construct based on separation is a construct of the mind, and there is no salvation there. You will never find happiness and peace and love and joy there. So the only option then is to let it go. And so that's why, sometimes he gives us these hard lessons. I call them the stick lessons. And he talks, and the ego is just, it's really dark and it's all about death and sickness. And he uses, some really graphic words on it. The blood is dripping from it and all this kind of stuff. He's doing that because he's trying to make us aware that this thought system just does not work. And so we need to let it go completely and entirely. We can't hold on to a little bit of it and expect to be free. It has to be a complete, okay, I'm letting go of the entire thing. And I'm going entirely then into my source, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. Yeah, it's an unequivocal, unambiguous choice. Otherwise, if you try and compromise, oh, well, I have a little bit of this. I quite like some of spirit, but I also like bits of the ego. We're compromising, and that maintains the split. And we will keep having suffering. We'll keep experiencing suffering and sickness and death over and over again until we choose, until there's an uncompromising choice for one or the other. You can't really choose the ego uncompromisingly because the spirit is always going to be there. So your only uncompromising choice is to choose the spirit, pure formless awareness, and that alone, and relinquish all else, which is what this is all about. The letting go is just, okay, you're going to let it go whenever it shows up, in whatever form it shows up. You're not going to be fooled anymore, and you're going to do this letting go process. And if you keep doing that diligently and systematically, you cannot fail to ultimately get out of the entire thought system and return your mind fully to God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness, because that's all that's left when you let go. There's nothing else left. So you cut away all of the illusions, the veil of illusion that covers that awareness, and all that's left is that awareness. And so it's a very, very simple thought system. He's saying, I love it because it's so simple. He's saying, okay, all you've got to do is cut away what's not you and all of this falsity, and what will reveal itself is you. And you don't have to try and create that on it. It's already there. It's a done deal. It's given to you. You just have to remove the blocks to that and reveal it, which is doable. I can do that. All I've got to do is let go of what's not me. That's okay. Much easier than trying to construct a false self and believe in it. So which is the ego's approach to growth. Oh, we'll construct a better self. You don't like this self, make up a better self. And now you've got to create that. And there's a whole image attached to it. And then there's judgments of yourself and others and expectations. And it's laced with fear, because what happens if the new self doesn't measure up? And that new self is usually attached to the outcome. Coming back to our original point about flow. You get attached to outcome, that perpetuates the separate self, which is all the ego is trying to do. So any questions about that?
No. No, let me sit with that for a while.
It's a bit of a download, but it's worth looking at this. That's why I refer to it, because it's like, understand how this works deeply. And you go, oh, okay, so the ego's doing, I get it. I see the mechanism of this, and I'm not fooled by it anymore. And that's when the ego's in real trouble, and you can really make spiritual progress, because you just see it. And you can kind of laugh at it. You go, okay, I got your game. I get it. I got your number. I can't be fooled anymore. And I can just have a laugh about it when the ego starts. And all it can do is try and amp it up and go, okay, well, let's try and create more drama. And then, the more it does that, the more it reveals the insanity of itself. You go, you're just completely insane. How can you expect me to believe anything you say when this is the kind of stuff you do? And so you start withdrawing your support and your allegiance. You don't listen to it anymore because you go, this is just a crazy nut job in my mind. This has no place. I don't want to listen to this. It's like listening to someone who's in an insane asylum. Taking guidance from this, is this really the choice I should be making? Or is this calm, still voice, this presence that's arising more and more, is that the voice I should be listening to? Just always calm, always peaceful, never upset, there's no drama. I was just saying, it's all okay. You're okay. Actually everything's okay. This is a process. And ultimately, you will get out of here. You're not imprisoned by this place. Time and space cannot hold you. You will free yourself. And while you're doing that, you can enjoy a happy dream. And it can be quite peaceful and quite nice and quite flowing. Okay, well, that's all right. You can do that for a few years. And all of this stuff is just then undone. It's like, well, none of it really exists. You look on, as the ego tries to tempt you with this, you just look on and go, really? No, it's just completely insane. Don't want any part of that anymore. So the reason the ego has resistance to this process is because it's so specific. You're revealing it. And then undoing its power. Once you see its insanity, it's got no power over you anymore. So if you read this, you can read it aloud or to yourself, and then just ponder the impeccable logic of the Holy Spirit and go, okay, well, that thought system actually makes sense.
Want me to read it?
If you want, yeah, read it aloud.
And it's also worth reminding yourself that no one can be guilty in truth, because nothing they seem to do in a dream is real. So they never really separated from God or pure formless awareness of perfect love, and therefore cannot be guilty, deserving of punishment for a crime they didn't commit. Everyone, including you, is really perfectly whole and complete in their true selfhood as pure formless awareness of perfect love.
So in going back here, do you see why you have to accept this thought system entirely or not at all? So, okay, well, we're either innocent, this never happened, and we're totally innocent and we're all actually pure formless awareness of perfect love still, or it has happened, actually this is no longer, and now we have to contend with the ego's madness because it's happened and it's not undoable. Sin is the belief that this has happened, it's real, it's permanent, the error is now made permanent, and it cannot be undone. So it keeps you bound into the ego. It's the underpinning of the separate self. It's now permanent. This has now replaced your true self. It's permanent. It's real. There's nothing you can do about it. You're eternally guilty. You're eternally damned, and that's just how it is. The ego tells you that. So you're either going to believe that story, or you have to believe, no, that I'm innocent. I never did this. And there's no in between. So very clear cut, and then he's telling us how you can actually live from this state of mind, the pure formless awareness, in the world with this help of this Holy Spirit, which is just a remembrance of this, but it's able to translate this into thoughts and emotions and words and actions in this world that are helpful. So it's the bridge between the worlds. It allows you to reinterpret all of this from the perspective of pure formless awareness, and that's its only perspective as well. None of this is true. So just let it go. If it's not true, why are you allowing yourself to get upset? Even think about it for one moment. If it's not true, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. Simple, end of. And so it's the simplicity of this that means that this will work. You know, convolution, complication, there's many teachings that can be, you know, quite involved and complicated and ambiguous, and that is not going to work. Just more complexity, just more of the ego trying to spin itself around and convince you that the dream is true and the dream is real, and that actually you can't get out. And that this happens in so-called spiritual paths a lot. It's called spiritual ego, where the ego has just hijacked that whole thing and it's now using it to perpetuate the illusion of itself. And you can spin around in that thought system forever and you'll never escape, because it's never telling you that there's something beyond ego or consciousness or the belief in separation. It's telling you that this is it, that this separated consciousness is it, and there's nothing beyond that. And that's a lie. So that at the highest level is Satan, the devil, saying, you know, this is all true and real and this is all there is, and not telling you that actually underneath this, still there is this oneness, this pure formless awareness that's with us always. Okay.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. So did you read this whole paragraph?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just ponder that. Ponder, like, can you really fault this logic? You really look at it. Can you break that logic? The only way you can break it is if you can't break the internal logic. All you can do is deny and say, no, actually, we did separate from God. That's real and true. The separation is true and real. Therefore, we must be guilty, and you know, we must deserve to suffer and to die. That's all you can do. But if you accept that none of this is real, it never really happened, then the logic is faulty. Because then we must still be, none of this is real, we must then still be in pure formless awareness of perfect love. But none of this has happened, so this is then all that remains. And so that's why it's a split. You must choose. You're going to believe one or the other, but you cannot believe both the ego and the Holy Spirit. It's not possible. They contradict each other entirely. So you must choose. So ponder that, you know, the impeccable logic of the last couple of paragraphs a while. And perhaps then you'll fully realize that the ego's thought system of expecting circumstances, people, places, and events to be other than they are, and blaming others in the world, even the weather, can be used to serve this twisted purpose, you know, because it doesn't matter what you're blaming. The ego just wants to blame something, to perpetuate this thought system of guilt and sin and fear and attack. This must be completely insane. It has no validity, it has no justification, and so you need to let go of your belief in it entirely, and all of its resulting behavior. So the expectations, the blame, the complaint, you got to drop all of that entirely, because as long as you continue with them, the behaviors perpetuate the thought system that motivates them. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Behavior reinforces and perpetuates the seeming cause of the behavior, which is the sin and the guilt and the fear. So it's like a complete, you must, you know, go cold turkey on all of this. You can't keep a little bit of the drug of guilt, sin, fear, attack going and expect to be clean. You can't. It's you know, it's all or nothing. Which, you know, any addict will tell you. It's like you can't be a little bit addicted. Like if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, you can't do any of it. It's like you can't take one drink because that's it. You're gone. You're back into the addiction cycle. So we have to do the same thing with us. And, you know, that is a process. You're not going to go cold turkey on the ego straight away. But it's like a decision. So I don't want any of this. I'm willing to let go of all of it and really hold myself to that standard and not compromise. Okay, and that brings us to right where we are. So join us for the session to discuss all of this in detail, which I think we've done. So any questions on that or comments? Happy to move on to the lesson.
Yeah. A lot. I've written down pages of stuff to contemplate and to clear on and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Been a good one.
Yeah, it was a bit of a download really, but that thought system explained like that, it gets to the very heart of the ego, and you need to understand that in order to undo this.
I'm just going to pop off just for 2 minutes while you get organized.
Yeah, that's fine. You do that. Okay. Okay. So let's done a few translations there. I'll just get the recordings going again.
Only got half an hour. Half an hour more.
All right. So let's have a look at the lesson. Started doing some translation. So okay. So do you want to read the main idea? There is no peace.
There is no peace except the peace of God. There is no peace except the peace of perfect love.
Okay. How much time do you have, Sally?
Half an hour.
Okay.
30 minutes more.
Okay. So just read.
Seek you no further.
Read the translation.
Seek you no further. You will not find peace except the peace of pure, formless awareness of perfect love. Accept this fact and save yourself the agony of yet more bitter disappointments, bleak despair, and sense of icy hopelessness and doubt. Seek you no further. Seek no further. There is nothing else for you to find except the peace of pure, formless awareness of perfect love, unless you seek for misery and pain. Lovely. It always sounds different when I read it on here. You know, and I read it to myself quietly in my head, that's one thing. But when I come here and say it out loud and contemplate it with you, it sounds very different.
But more sort of more powerful, more impactful.
Yeah, deeper. Yeah. I hear it.
I think there's something like reading aloud. You know, it's part of affirmation. You read it aloud, and it's like, okay, you're actually speaking it, you're verbalizing it, and that sort of has more power in your mind. It's like I'm actually affirming this. If I'm speaking it aloud, I'm affirming the truth of this. If I'm just reading it and thinking it, it's not quite the same impact. And maybe also just because there's another person and there's a field of energy, and it's like, okay, so now the whole, you know, the words the words have more impact because you're in that frequency, in that field. So there he's telling us. So some people don't like, a lot of people turn away from the Course when they start to get this deep into it, because they read this and they're going, oh my God, he's telling me the world is hopeless and pointless, and there's, you know, bleak despair, bitter disappointments, that there's really no point to this. Well, that's just, you know, desperate and depressing. And I want to find something in the world that's not desperate and depressing. So then they leave the Course and they go and they seek elsewhere, which is exactly what he's saying don't do. Don't look anywhere else, because you're not going to find it, right? You've got to accept that the nature of the dream is it's a separation from God or pure formless awareness of perfect love, and nothing good can come from that. It's not possible to make that into something that it's not. By design, it's flawed, and you will experience time and time again bitter disappointments, bleak despair, icy hopelessness and doubt if you believe that a dream can offer you true satisfaction, saying just, you got to give this up and be willing to see that the only way is to escape it. You've got to leave it. You must leave this world behind entirely. There is nothing else for you to find except the peace of pure formless awareness of perfect love. We call it the peace of, we should change this. What do you think? Peace of, I usually translate when there's the peace of peace of God, because there's an of there. You know, we shorten the pure formless awareness of perfect love into just perfect love. But because we're talking about peace, the peace of pure formless awareness, what do you think?
I know. They all work for me.
Or the peace of perfect love. I mean, that also does sound quite nice. Huh? Peace of perfect love.
Yeah.
Kind of rolls off the tongue. Okay, we'll keep it as perfect love. Peace of perfect love, which is perfect oneness.
What I've noticed recently is that when workshops come up, I used to enjoy doing all sorts of different workshops, and now it's just like, well, that's just in the dream again, and so I don't have to make that decision to do other workshops. So it's kind of narrowed things down doing the course. It's like, well, I'm just seeking, aren't I? I'm just looking elsewhere again. So it saves time and money and looking elsewhere for things by doing this course. It was fun doing it. It was fun for a while doing them, but when you know it's a dream, that you're just playing in the dream, it just seems a bit pointless. So I don't do that anymore. And I noticed that saves a lot of time. Yeah.
So then you have time to allocate to something that's actually going to help you free your mind entirely. So he's asking us to commit and say, look, commit to this process, give it your all, because this is actually going to work. You finally got a process here that's going to work to free your mind entirely. There will be no pain, no suffering, no sickness, no death remaining. You will escape the whole bad dream of the ego if you follow this. And he knows that this works because he's done it. And so, you know, he's asking us to go much deeper instead of the scattergun approach. And some people, oh, well, I have a bit of this and a bit of this. One of the people I think you referred, can't remember who it was, and I won't mention her name, even if I did. But she was like, no, well, I've got so much on. I've got like 5 different courses I'm doing. So I just don't have room for it. So I'm like, yeah, well, of course. How can you do justice to 5 different courses at the same time? Well, it's not possible. You know, you're just kind of dabbling in each one, getting little bits and pieces, and that's preventing you from going deeper into one path, which is going to take you deeply into your mind, which is where the change needs to be. You're just still on the surface. So there's spiritual seekers doing the same thing. Oh, I want a bit of this and a little bit of this, and you're looking elsewhere, and you're not really willing to just go, okay, let me go deeper into myself, using this one teaching to do that. It's just a process that's helping you to go into your true self, find it, and let go of everything else, which eventually every path has to do, whether you follow a Buddhist path or a Sufi path or whatever, Course in Miracles, or a yogic path or Advaita Vedanta. It's in the end, it's going to come to the same thing. Are you ready to let go of everything and commit to this one thing, the one source of who you are? That's the perennial philosophy. That's the universal truth, which every path in the end leads to. So if you come to something like this, it's the final stage in your enlightenment. It's like, okay, just do this, and everything else is really pointless because it's not leading you anywhere. It's just more distraction in the dream world. And you see, once you understand what it is, you see through that and you go, well, why do I want to do that? That's just pointless. I'm wasting my time. It has no attraction for me to fiddle around with illusions anymore. I want one thing, and I own one thing only. I want the truth. I want to experience, who I really am as pure formless awareness of perfect love and nothing else. So yeah, that's a good sign. What you're describing means you're advancing. So you don't advance in your spiritual practice by going broader and going, oh well, I'll go there and I'll go there and I'll go there. You do it by going deeper into one path. Now, whether that's a Course in Miracles or it was Buddhism or Sufism, if you go deeply into that path, in the end, as Yeshua himself says, it's going to take you there. So they all lead to God in the end. But this, given who it's coming from, and the detail that he's gone into to describe the ego, I don't know the better path than this. There isn't something that is as explicit in revealing the ego in the world. I haven't found it. So you got to the ultimate here. Well, why do you want to? Everything else is a step down. This is the ultimate mind training program that exists in the world at the moment. So why do you want to go look anywhere else? You've got the Ferrari Testarossa of spiritual enlightenment here, and you want to go and shop around for a Volkswagen Beetle or a whatever. Well, why would you want to do that? You've already got the ultimate. So just drive it. Like, okay, let's do this at speed. This is the fast track to enlightenment. Saying, you can do this in one lifetime. You don't have to have 7 or 10 or 100 more. You can do this just by focusing on this and studying it. And then, the Arts of Letting Go program just supports this. It basically says, okay, well, I'll create I got inspired to create a program that just facilitates you really doing this. So it accelerates it even more. So why, if you're really committed to it and you see the value, why look anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. Just commit to it and do it, which is what you're doing. So, it's working for you. Hats off to you. So anyone listening to the recording, join us more online. Why is only Sally here? Why are you only? It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, well, is there anything else? I mean, we have lives, we're busy, but what's the priority? What is really the priority here? If awakening is the only thing, and then joining the live calls is going to accelerate that process, surely that should be like a priority then in your day. You make that, prioritize it above everything else. So it's a reordering, but that does take time. You need to reorder your priorities and say, okay, well, what's really important here? He's asking you for an exclusive commitment at this stage in the course. He doesn't start that way. Lesson 1 is like, okay, he asks you for a couple of minutes a day, not a big deal. But now he's saying, okay, well, you're 200 days into this process. This is double century, 200 days of this that you've been doing by the time you get to this. So you're kind of quite deep into this now. If you've got to lesson 200, he's saying, okay, well, are you going to commit to this and this alone? And then he says, you want to read this? This is the final point.
This is the final point to which each one must come at last, to lay aside all hope of finding happiness where there is none, of being saved by what can only hurt, of making peace of chaos, joy of pain, and the state of pure awareness out of hell. Attempt no more to win through losing, nor to die to live. You cannot but be asking for defeat.
I mean, it's just so explicit. He's just spelling it out for us. When people say, oh, there's many interpretations of the Course, I go, like, how do you misread this? I mean, he's being so explicit. There's no ambiguity. There's no fudging it. There's no compromise. He's telling you so clearly. How do you then misinterpret that? People still do, but if you read it clearly, I mean, that just leaves no room for misinterpretation. You just accept what he's saying. Attempt no more to win through losing, nor to die to live. You cannot but be asking. You can only be asking. Let's change that. You can only be asking for defeat. And when I finally understood what he's saying, I was like, you know what, in some ways that's devastating for the ego. You do go through a phase of like, oh my God, this is all pointless. But on the other side of that, you go, well, hallelujah. Actually, someone's finally told me the truth about this place, and I can actually get out now. I don't have to keep trying to make work a thought system that doesn't work and keep failing and keep being defeated. I don't have to keep doing that. Oh, hallelujah. He's actually telling it to me straight. Thank you, Yeshua. You know, thank you for being straight with me, because it's not helping us if he's not telling us the truth, sugarcoating the illusion and say, oh, no, it's kind of okay, and you can kind of make it work. And there's many spiritual teachers and teachings who do that. Oh, it's okay. You can, you know, that has its place. And he's saying, no. Actually, you've got to let it all go. And that is a process. Yes, it's going to take some time. But ultimately, this is where you're going. And the quicker you do it, the better. Okay, so any thoughts on number 2?
This is the final point. Sounds like you're getting to a turning point.
Yeah, everyone must come to the realize, okay, this is it here. I'm not seeking the truth anymore. I know the truth. It's here. It's right here in front of me. It's in these words. The only question is, do I accept it fully? Or am I still going to, oh no, I'm going to seek somewhere else as a distraction device to stop me from accepting the full impact of this truth? Because if you really accept this, that's it. Game over. Ego's done. No more. And so then an ego defense is like, oh, we'll go seek somewhere else and look somewhere else for the truth, because you don't want to accept fully what he's saying. Well, you think like when you get to the truth in another path, it's going to be any easier to handle? It's the same wherever you go. You know, every path will lead you to the same realization, the final point to which each one must come at last. Whether you follow a Course in Miracles path or Buddhism or Sufism or Advaita Vedanta, you will eventually come to the same point if you go deeply enough into that path. So why not just get it over with? All right, let's do this then. Let's get it over with. And if it, you know, you've got to go through a dark night of the soul and it's not pleasant, get it over with. Do it. Go through that. Come out the other side and go, hallelujah. You know, I'm actually free now. Finally, I'm not trying to make the impossible dream work anymore. I get it. Yes, sure. I'm free. It's not going to work. Ha! That's such a relief. Can you feel that? It's just like, oh, I don't have to try and make the impossible work anymore and attempt to do the impossible, because it's not possible to make this dream work. It's never going to work. If I can just accept that, I'm free in that acceptance. What a relief! Finally, I can be free of this insane thought system, trying to make it work when it just doesn't work. And that's, you know, what he's holding out to us. Okay, how are we doing on time? Do you want to do one more paragraph and then go into meditation?
Yeah, please. Yet you may ask as easily for love, for happiness, and for eternal life in peace that has no ending. Ask for this and you can only win. To ask for what you have already must succeed. To ask that what is false be true can only fail. Forgive yourself for vain imaginings and seek no longer what you cannot find. For what could be more foolish than to seek and seek and seek again for hell, when you have but to look with open eyes to find that the state of pure formless awareness lies before you through a door that opens easily to welcome you. It says lies before you, but is it not within us?
Yeah. When you have but to look, when you only have to look, just catch up with you. So I just changed forgive yourself for vain imaginings. Let's say let go of vain imaginings. It's much more direct. This self-forgiveness is problematic because actually what you're doing is you're letting it go. In truth, that's what self-forgiveness means. You only have to look with open eyes to find that state of pure formless awareness lies before you through a door that opens easily to welcome you. Yeah. So he's using the analogy of, okay, it's like you've been on a journey and you come to the door and then it lies before you. It's a bit
external though, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the analogy kind of externalizes, which isn't good. It lies within you through a door that opens easily to welcome you. So I think that's better, within you rather than before you.
Yeah.
Through a door, which is the door is really just your own beliefs.
Yeah, you open your own, let go of your own resistances.
Yeah, through the doorway of your own
awareness.
Doorway of your own
beliefs.
Maybe just mind, beliefs. The doorway of your own mind.
Mind, yeah.
Doorway of your own awareness. We've already got awareness. So through the doorway of your own mind. I think that's quite nice. So the mind is then the or just the doorway or door, just the door of your own mind. Door.
Yeah, both work.
Door of your own mind.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Like an experience, you're seeing it within your own mind.
It opens easily to welcome you. So if you want it, that's why the great adventure is within. It's to go within, and then the door of your own mind starts to open to this truth that's buried in it. It's nothing external. So
yeah, even more reason why not to do any more workshops anywhere else. They're not out there. There's nothing out there.
Exactly. You're only going to find the same truth, whatever workshop. If it's a good workshop, it'll point you to the same truth because there's only one truth within you. So, do you need another workshop to point you to a truth that you can access by sitting on your own sofa and just being quiet? I mean, it starts to become a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? It's like, well, I don't need another workshop to seek if I've already found it. I know the answer. I found the answer. I want to just go deeper into the answer, deeper into the experience of the answer. And that involves more and more quietness and silence and just deepening into that experience. I don't need external things, workshops, people, facilitators, new processes. I don't need that. I just need to quieten my mind and deepen into this. And I can use the pointer of the lesson for the day. What starts to happen as we head into the second half of this workbook is there are little sutras. It's like a short pointer. It's like a paragraph, a key idea, paragraph, and that's it. Very short, because he's saying it, the words are just the pointer to take you into the deeper state. But like the sutras of the Vedas, it's a very short, brief pointer that you use to then facilitate a meditation. You just go through those simple words into the state. And so it becomes less wordy, becomes more experiential, less wordy in the second half, because the words are necessary to undo all the rubbish, all the false beliefs and ideas. But now you've gone through that preparation. The first part of the workbook is the undoing, and the second part is the deepening into the experience of truth, which is kind of where we're getting to in 20 lessons time. Okay, so speaking of experience, should we do a meditation? You've got till 1:45, 10 to what's the
I can do, till just before 1:45.
okay? So I'll just keep it to a 10-minute med then.
If you run
So
over, I'll
bring it-
just pop off.
Okay. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. And so you're breathing in and you notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises. And the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And clench your sphincter muscle to lock the energy in if you like. Pull the energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart. Connect with your heart space. And then final sip of air, draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head, so you feel a warm wave of energy rising up the spine. Maximal inhale breath, so your lungs are completely full. Hold the breath briefly. And now just scan your mind, so noticing any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations related to them going on in your mind, in your body. And if there's anything that's disturbing your peace, just remind yourself that there is no peace except the peace of perfect love, perfect oneness. There's no peace except the peace of perfect love. Say that to yourself a couple of times. Feel the power of these words to take you into the state they describe. They are pointers to the truth of perfect love, perfect oneness, pure formless awareness. And so feel that calling you, and just to help you sink into that, let go with the help of your breath. As you exhale, just release any of those dark thoughts and emotions, anything that was disturbing your peace, covering over your true awareness. Become willing to let it go. Blow it all out with the breeze of your breath, like a dark smoke, black smoke leaving you. It's going, gone. Pull the lower stomach sharply into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest here for a few moments. The gap between breaths. Let's just come to this awareness, pure formless awareness arises in your mind. You're just aware of that awareness, and it's very peaceful, calming and loving. And then just breathe in again. Just getting into a nice, deep, slow rhythm of breathing in and out through your nose. Focus your attention on the nostrils. Notice the touch of the breath in the nose, inside the nostrils, and notice how the air flows over this little area between your nose and your bottom, your top lip. Notice the touch of the breath as you inhale and as you exhale on that area. And there's nowhere else to go, and there's nothing else to do. And nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax. Be still. Surrender into the stillness. Going deeper and deeper with each breath. To the still, calm, quiet presence. Peaceful presence, that is the peace of God that this lesson refers to. Peace of perfect love, and there is no other peace. There's no other form of peace that's possible. Anything else is actually disturbance of your peace, is the opposite of peace. So give yourself a couple of minutes just to sink into this peace, to experience it fully, deeply, and completely. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, observe the breath. The breath take you deeper into this peaceful presence. Say, there is no peace except the peace of perfect love. And I am glad and thankful that it is so. And with that gladness, that gratitude, let yourself sink into this peace for the next 2 minutes of deep silence. Any thoughts arise, seemingly disturbing this deep peace, just let them go. And they're like clouds, just blow them away with the breeze of your breath. Releasing them into the nothingness they are. So only the blue sky of your true awareness, pure formless awareness, and the light of your source, perfect love, shining through your awareness is there. Rest in that peace of perfect love for another minute or so of deep silence. So just gently coming back from this deep state of peace to an awareness of the body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, and noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale, scan your mind again. Notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. If there's anything that's not peaceful, once again, let it go as you exhale. Release it. It's your breath. Feel the energy subsiding from the crown of your head down the front channel of your body, coming to rest in the lower stomach and your groin. So on the count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. So what you're feeling and touching. There's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. Notice that as you breathe in again. It's what you're hearing. You're noticing all these things from this very still, calm, peaceful state of mind. No judgment. And so notice the state and anchor it into your awareness, because this is the enlightened state, the peaceful state in which you can have peace as your foundation and stay in the peaceful flow life, because everything's being perceived from this peaceful foundation. To help you stay there, stay connected, just practice today's lesson frequently. Yeshua recommends every hour. You can do it just for a few seconds, using just the key idea. You can listen to the 1 minute, read the 1 minute instructions that I've included in the text message and email, and or listen for 5 minutes to the breath break. So practice well this evening. Stay in the peace of God, peace of your own perfect love for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So it is said, so it is done. And so on the count of 3, open your eyes, look around, just take 30 seconds to orient yourself back, noticing everything in the room from this state of peaceful awareness. Notice that everything's really the same. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, what you're perceiving. Peaceful awareness remains the same. And that awareness is your true awareness. That's enlightened awareness, true awareness. That's will help you stay in peace, which is what I wish for you for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So thank you for joining the session, Sally. And I wish everyone good practicing and much peace. Namaste. Which means the divine peace in me acknowledges and honors that